in case you didn't know that. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. As people, I think a few more people might join, I will let them in as we go. Generally, I'm not the one that is presenting and leading the workshop, so I can do the stuff on the back end. So if you have questions that you put in the chat, forgive me, I might not see them right away, but you are more than welcome to put questions in the chat or unmute yourself. Raise your hand if you have any questions. Miss Jenny Landreth was supposed to present for us tonight, but she had well, I was going to say unexpected death. Generally, they are unexpected. So she had a death in her family and she was not able to make it tonight. I'm hoping to bring her back later in the year for her to do this presentation, but I wanted to go ahead for those of you that could make it and do my version of the presentation. So I am going to screen share again. All right, everyone see the green teal rise up again? Yeah, all right. So rise up, let's go to the next slide. Again, okay. Again, I'm not used to using Google Slides. I'm not sure why I did it in Google Slides, so bear with me while I learn with you. Strengthening your brain. This could mean a lot of different things. So I wasn't sure what direction that Miss Jenny was going to go when she said she would do this for us. So what the direction she went was basically, we're going to talk tonight about the bad things that stress can do to your brain, why they're bad, and some good things that you can do to help your brain. So, for example, your brain freezes when it's under stress. During hard times, it slows down and it breaks down. These are some pictures of your brain, let's say under stress. So if you see the picture with the green arrows, everything's working correctly. You have tight control of your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. When you're under stress, you have weaker control of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And I did not mean to do that. Sorry, guys. The one up in the corner with the orange and the yellows, you see on the left, the healthy brain. And you see the results of chronic stress on the right. You see right there in the temporal lobes where some of the brain has actually even gone away, so to speak. I mentioned a moment ago how those brain functions cease to an extent. Your brain cells don't reproduce themselves. So that's what happens in those temporal lobes where you see blackness in that one picture. And chronic stress is a type of stress that you're under for long term. Stress is healthy in small doses, small increments, that is not continued, that is not for a long time, that is not in abnormal volume. So let's say you saw a bear, right? Your body's under stress. You're going to do a panic response. If your body's in that type of response for a long period of time, you're going to end up with results like that one with the temporal lobes missing. The picture underneath on the left, the stressed and depressed scan from the Mayo Foundation. And then the picture on the right is optimal functioning, where you can see all of that lit up. That's brain activity. It's the way your brain's supposed to look. And when you're stressed and depressed for an extended period of time, your brain starts to shut down some. And that's what that blue, mostly blue picture is of. So there are a few things that being under chronic stress can cause. Forgetfulness and emotionalness. So chronic stress can cause memory problems. You may misplace your keys or your phone and you're scrambling to find them. You can't figure out where they are. Well, chances are it's because you're under stress, whether that be from school or work or family life. You also may find that stress makes you more emotional. And there's a psychological reason for it too. When you're stressed, there are electrical signals in your brain that are associated with your factual memories, and they weaken the areas of the brain that is associated with emotions. So like those frontal lobes that we were talking about on the previous slide, as those start to weaken, they help control your emotional ability. So being able to control your emotions starts to deteriorate when you're under a lot of stress for an extended period of time. You also have more fear and anxiety with stress. Stress builds up in the area of your brain called the amygdala. You might have mentioned or noticed that on the previous slide of the brains. It is actually your brain's fear center. So stress increases the size, the activity level, and the number of neurons and the connection of neural connections in your brain, which in turn causes more fearfulness, and a cycle of anxiety and fear can perpetuate. It also halts the production of new brain cells. So every day you're losing brain cells. It's just a part of life. You're losing, skin cells, hair, everything. The same goes for your brain. You lose brain cells or pieces of your brain technically. But you create new ones, just like you don't lose all your hair. It's still growing, right? You don't lose all your skin. It's just the old comes off and the new keeps growing. The same with your brain, except when you aren't keeping your brain healthy, when you aren't in a healthy state in your life, those can start to be sluggish. They don't continue forming. They kind of freeze. Like you might have noticed in one of the previous slides, it said brain freeze. Your brain literally freezes and stops reproducing those cells. It can cause depression. So the depleting of the critical brain chemicals that I was just talking about can then lead into depression. When those I'm not a brain person, so forgive me with not being able to say all these terms correctly, but the neurological connections that form in your brain do not connect correctly. When all of those neurons and connections and new brain cells aren't there. So when you have serotonin and dopamine and a healthy level of those chemicals, it's healthy, right? When one of those up or down, that's when you can be prone to depression. So serotonin is the happy molecule. It plays a large role in our mood, in learning, in our appetite. So women are actually low in serotonin, and that's why we're more prone to depression, anxiety, etc. Men, on the other hand, are more prone to, because of those serotonins, to alcoholism, ADHD, impulse control disorders, etc. And then dopamine is the motivation molecule. It is in charge of your pleasure reward system. So if you have too little dopamine, you can feel unfocused, unmotivated, lethargic, or like I was mentioning, depressed. So it can also make you feel inadequate, or the thing said stupid, but I liked inadequate better. Your brain can seize up because it doesn't have those new cells reproducing. It could just, earlier I said forgetfulness. You can forget where your keys are or your phone. You can forget things like that, and it makes you feel inadequate. You usually go into a survival mode or mechanism, kind of like I mentioned earlier, when you're faced with the bear and you're in flight or fright type of a survival mechanism mode. That impairs your memory and helps you, or makes you, make bad choices sometimes. And that all goes hand in hand with continued stress and your brain not having all the cells that it needs to have to be healthy. It can also shrink your brain. So it not in a noticeable way unless you're on an x-ray, obviously you can't see your head, right? Your brain. But in that one x-ray that I pointed out where the front lobes were missing or starting to deteriorate, that's part of your brain shrinking. And that can cause Sorry, I lost my place. That can cause your hippocampus, which is critical thinking part of your brain. In addition to, I mentioned earlier, the emotional regulation, that all starts shutting off. So as your brain shrinks, you start losing things that you take for granted right now, probably. I mean, I know I do, as far as the being able to learn very well, the being able to have control over your emotions. Some of those emotions that you lose control over is worry and fear, anger, frustration, impatience, mood swings. Have you ever felt any of these, guys? Insomnia, racing thoughts you can't stop, difficulty in making decisions, feeling overwhelmed or irritable. These are all signs that maybe you're too stressed. So here is a picture of your stress response. I've talked a lot about the brain and it was probably a little boring. I'm sorry. But here in this picture, I wanted to make sure that you knew that it doesn't just affect your brain, even though that's what we're talking about tonight. It affects your whole body. If you look at this, when you're under stress, and again, that could be schoolwork, tests, family drama, friend drama, work drama, it could be anything that's causing you and your life stress. It doesn't only affect your brain, but your lungs. Your heart rate is increased. Your adrenal glands and your cortisol are all out of whack. Your digestive system decreases. Your blood pressure increases. So those are all things to show you that it affects your entire body. Those that undergo stress a lot, that chronic stress that I was talking about, end up with more health issues as they age because of it. So we are going to watch a quick 4-minute video on why or how chronic stress affects your brain. And I think this TED Talk is going to explain it a little better than I did. So let's see what they have to say. Okay, can we hear it? Yeah, okay.
Are you sleeping restlessly, feeling irritable or moody, forgetting little things, and feeling overwhelmed and isolated? Don't worry, we've all been there. You're probably just stressed out. Stress isn't always a bad thing. It can be handy for a burst of extra energy and focus, like when you're playing a competitive sport or have to speak in public. But when it's continuous, the kind most of us face day in and day out, it actually begins to change your brain. Chronic stress, like being overworked or having arguments at home, can affect brain size, its structure, and how it functions, right down to the level of your genes. Stress begins with something called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, a series of interactions between endocrine glands in the brain and on the kidney, which controls your body's reaction to stress. When your brain detects a stressful situation, your HPA axis is instantly activated and releases a hormone called cortisol, which primes your body for instant action. But high levels of cortisol over long periods of time wreak havoc on your brain. For example, chronic stress increases the activity level and number of neural connections in the amygdala, your brain's fear center. And as levels of cortisol rise, electric signals in your hippocampus, the part of the brain associated with learning, memories, and stress control, deteriorate. The hippocampus also inhibits the activity of the HPA axis, so when it weakens, so does your ability to control your stress. That's not all, though. Cortisol can literally cause your brain to shrink in size. Too much of it results in the loss of synaptic connections between neurons and the shrinking of your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that regulates behaviors like concentration, decision-making, judgment, and social interaction. It also leads to fewer new brain cells being made in the hippocampus. This means chronic stress might make it harder for you to learn and remember things, and also set the stage for more serious mental problems like depression and eventually Alzheimer's disease. The effects of stress may filter right down to your brain's DNA. An experiment showed that the amount of nurturing a mother rat provides its newborn baby plays a part in determining how that baby responds to stress later in life. The pups of nurturing moms turned out less sensitive to stress because their brains developed more cortisol receptors, which stick to cortisol and dampen the stress response. The pups of negligent moms had the opposite outcome, and so became more sensitive to stress throughout life. These are considered epigenetic changes. They affect which genes are expressed without directly changing the genetic code. And these changes can be reversed if the moms are swapped. But there's a surprising result. The epigenetic changes caused by one single mother rat were passed down to many generations of rats after her. In other words, the results of these actions were inheritable. It's not all bad news, though. There are many ways to reverse what cortisol does to your stressed brain. The most powerful weapons are exercise and meditation, which involves breathing deeply and being aware and focused on your surroundings. Both of these activities decrease your stress and increase the size of the hippocampus, thereby improving your memory. So don't feel defeated by the pressures of daily life. Get in control of your stress before it takes control of you.
All right. Sorry that that was a little low in volume at first, guys. I hope it got better as it went and you were able to hear most of it. Does anybody have any questions so far about the video or about anything that I've shared so far? Nope, I'm seeing no's. Okay. Oh, I don't want to start that again. There we go. So a stronger brain can help with a lot of different things, right? Like help you problem solve. Even helps you solve conflicts, remember things, concentrate. It can help you be happier. It can fight off depression, disarm fear, and help you enjoy life. It can help you be creative, innovative, artistic, and think of new ideas and improve your body, your and hand-eye coordination. It can help you sleep better and can help you fight off sicknesses. So what does a healthy brain need? Well, kind of like the first two things, kind of like you water a plant and they have nutrients in the ground, right? We need those things too. We need to increase our heart rate. And how do we do that? By exercising, by playing sports, by being outside and doing things and being active. We can do deep breathing exercises. So like when you get upset or angry or in a conflict, you can practice that deep breathing to help calm yourself. Nutrients, the right foods can be a huge game changer. Have you ever eaten a bowl of ice cream, excuse me, or a piece of cake and you kind of maybe felt either A, super hyper after or super sluggish after? Well, your body's not handling that very well. And if we eat more, I'm trying to word this the correct way. If we eat more things that are good for us to kind of help feed our brain, we just feel better. And practice. So I was talking about how earlier, how every day, our brain is making new cells, right? Well, it's also making those new pathways or connections in our brain, and we can form habits to continue to make those healthy connections that can last a lifetime. And we'll talk a little bit about how to do that too. So we talked about increasing your heart rate and the physical activity, the deep breathing. It can also strengthen your lungs, which we mentioned earlier is part of the whole connection of your body that stress affects. Also, I mentioned upset, but also if you're anxious or fearful or in physical pain, you can breathe through those too. It helps calm down your brain. It helps decrease the stress. Yawning's a good thing too. So if you don't know, if you're like, what is this breathing thing she's talking about? I breathe all the time. A deep breathing, fill up your lungs like you do when you yawn. Let it out, bring it in. And you can count however long you can bring in a breath. Some people can do it for 2 seconds, some people 10. So whatever feels comfortable to you, because you don't want to put more stress on yourself by trying to breathe but just do whatever's comforting and calming to you. And we talked about the brain food. And I won't lie, super excited that chocolate was on here, by the way. But chocolate, dark chocolate, broccoli, avocados, tomatoes, nuts, salmon. There are so many amazing foods that you can have that are brain foods. And here's some things or some little descriptions of why. And I'm not going to read it all to you. You can look these up yourself. But these are descriptions as to why these foods are good for us. They have the vitamins and the antioxidants and whatnot. So our brains change. I mentioned how they're constantly making new connections and sloughing off old cells and bringing in the new. They're pliable, they're flexible, and everything we do every day influences them. So as your brain sends a message, it physically changes your brain by establishing a groove. So actually, we'll talk about this in a minute. There's another slide for it. But the more that message is sent over and over and over in your brain, the more that those established pathways become ingrained in your brain. So when we were talking about chronic stress and how it can affect your brain so drastically, the same thing can happen the opposite way when it's good things, when they're good habits, when you're doing good things to help your brain to be healthy. So every message, like I said, that is sent passes through the woods. So if you think about a path in the woods, you see that path on the screen. It makes it a path. So, you do habits. Like I know my daughter locks her car 3 times. That's a habit. That's a neural pathway now in her brain. You tap your toothbrush 3 times. You say hello when you answer the phone. Have you ever thought about that? When you answer the phone, you automatically say hello. Have you ever thought about not saying hello, or maybe how difficult it would be to answer a phone saying something else? Any habit that you've made is hard to change, whether it's good or bad. But knowing how easy it is to make that good connection in your brain, we want to make as many good habits as we can. So one habit that you should work on is positive speech. These aren't positive speech, right? I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm stupid. The more you say those things, the more you're making those bad connections or habits in your life. But what you need to say is, I can do it. Keep trying. I'm worth it. I won't give up. And I have a very short video again. I love YouTube's, sorry. This one's like just 2 or 3 minutes. And it's going to talk to us about how to exercise your brain in some of the similar ways that I've been talking about the last couple minutes. But maybe they have some more ideas. Let's see.
How to exercise your brain. Number 1, read more. Reading improves brain function, enhances your imagination, and also improves theory of mind, which helps people relate to and understand perspectives different from their own perspectives. It can also reduce stress, improve memory, help you focus better, and improve your writing skills. Number 2, learn something new. Learning to play an instrument or a new language helps to rewire the brain, which allows for faster and stronger signaling within the brain. This also helps improve memory and quicker processing of information. Number 3, get good quality sleep. Sleep helps solidify memories. It also clears toxins from the brain more rapidly than when you're awake. Sleep helps improve creativity. It allows you to learn better and increases your ability to retain what you have learned. Number 4, exercise regularly or take up a new sport. Exercising or learning a new sport, such as tennis, racquetball, golf, or softball, can stimulate the brain in many ways, as they stimulate the release of beneficial chemicals in the brain and promote the health of blood vessels in the brain. Number 5, eat fruit and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are high in vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, which can help nourish the brain and protect it from damaging free radicals. Many studies have shown that diets high in processed foods can impair brain function. Number 6, modify your daily routines. Take a different route to work or use your non-dominant hand to eat with, control your mouse with, or brush your teeth with. This will increase your brain activity as you have to actually think about what you're doing. Number 7, use all of your senses. Cooking a new food or gardening are great ways to engage many of your senses. Using multiple senses stimulates activity in different parts of the brain and can also improve many of those senses. Number 8, socialize with different people. Connecting with people from different cultures, careers, or those with different interests than your own can be beneficial to your brain health. This allows you to see things from different perspectives and can challenge your way of thinking, stimulating mental growth. And that would be some ways to exercise your brain.
All right. So any questions so far? Doesn't have to be questions. It can be comments too. Anybody have anything they want to share? No? Okay.
How to exercise your
Did that last time too. All right. So these are additional ways, additional things that you can say to help grow your mind, grow your mindset, your attitude, help with those healthy, positive habits. So if you are in the habit of saying things like, I can't do it, I'm not good at this, think about something different you can say. I'm still learning. I'll keep trying. What can I learn to get better at this? So if you think about how you can improve yourself versus being so hard on yourself and final with what you say with yourself, you can help yourself grow. And the more positive you are, the more you can grow your mind, those healthy habits, and have a stronger brain. Again, practice makes a habit. So here's a little bit of an overview. Because this wasn't my workshop or slideshow, we went through it a lot faster than I had anticipated. She probably would have talked more at each slide. But here are, as an overview, 10 ways to keep our brains healthy. So again, looking at your mental health, we were talking about that and how we talk to ourselves. Exercising, being active, being outside. It's summer, so if we go on a walk, if we're going swimming somewhere. Hydration, making sure that you drink enough water, but not too much water, right, Allie? If you sleep, so especially you guys are teenagers, so you need to make sure you're sleeping enough, because that, like in the video, is when your brain is making those new connections. It is releasing toxins. It is making itself new. It's also when, if your body's fighting a virus or something, it's when your body's fighting it. It's also when you're growing. So diet, being social. So even those introverts, you need to make sure that you're social. Learning new things, challenging yourself. So you can do it. And this is where I want to tell you really fast, next week's, I always forget to share, next week's workshop is with a Miss Kim from New Seasons, and it's going to be on addiction and what is addiction? Is it dangerous? How can I or somebody I know and love get help? So now it's question time. I know I've asked it a couple times. Any questions? Any comments? Anything that you think that I didn't share well, that maybe you could share more on to help us understand it better? Maybe something I didn't share at all that you're wondering why I didn't share. It's probably because I didn't know. So if you have something you want to share. All right. No, Sarah, you have something?
Well, I like the when it was talking about serotonin and dopamine, I feel like I struggle with those things. I like to exercise by running, and it's one of those weird, it's the only action I do where 100% of the time I don't want to do it, and 100% of the time at the end of it, I'm glad I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, like, those two chemicals that get released are really fantastic for just getting me out of a slump.
Absolutely.
It's kind of cool.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So for those of you that were on, we had a time management workshop a few weeks ago, And the speaker actually talked about that in that time management too. She was talking about eating your biggest, ugliest frog first, for those of you that are on that remember. And a lot of times it's something like that. It's something we that's going to make us feel better in the end, but it's not something we necessarily want to do, like working out or running, where in the end it's going to give you those chemical reactions to help make you feel better. And if you do it first, the rest of the day, you're going to feel great. Okay. I don't want to keep you guys. So if there aren't any more questions, keep an eye out. I'm going to have Miss Jenny come back and do this again. So she'll probably share a few different things and in a different way than what I did tonight. So keep an eye out for when we get that scheduled and come back for it, because I think that it'll be very interesting. Hopefully she'll build on some of the things that I shared and we'll learn even more. So I'm going to let you go early tonight. I greatly appreciate you being here and for taking the time to learn with us tonight. So have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you all.